Patterns. Patterns are any regularly repeated arrangement. A pattern is a regularity in the world, in human-made design, or in abstract ideas. The elements of patterns repeat in a predictable manner. And boy, do we see some patterns that Don and Candus have created.
She wants Donnie to go to jail and stuff for doing that to her daughter, but, my dad's like, well, if that happens, well, we're divorcing, and back then, she really didn't have a choice. What my dad said went.
But that behavior in of itself, that's learned behavior. There's like some exploratory stuff going on there for sure.
So the other day I was taking a shower where I get all of my brilliant ideas, and I thought I should make a video about Don and Candus's patterns because there are plenty of them. Some humans go through life consistently changing because we recognize bad behavior and make an effort to change that behavior so that we are continually learning and growing. Some humans are stubborn and refuse to take accountability. They refuse to recognize their wrongdoings, therefore they become stuck in a vicious cycle of repeating the same bad behavior over and over and over. These patterns reveal truth. People go to great lengths to hide the truth, especially when they've done something wrong, but many times the truth is fairly easy to see if we just look within the patterns. Past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. This is especially true when you look at Don and Candus Wells. Don and Candus's behavior goes back way before Summer went missing, before Wyatt and Waylon were born, before Josie was born, before these two even met. Don and Candus grew up in the 70s and 80s.
Chris McDonough, we don't live in the 80s anymore. This is 2021. You can't just lock people up on allegations and throw away the key like you did in the 80s. It's a different world now.
When violence was largely unrecognized and virtually ignored by the legal system. Women battering was deemed a private matter. Police and medical staff were reluctant to intervene into private affairs or matters between a husband and wife. Wife abuse was an accepted custom and was often regarded with humor. In the 70s, there was an ad for a Michigan bowling alley that read in bold letters, "Have some fun, eat your wife tonight." By the 80s, there was a shift when women came together with banners that said, "We will not be beaten." There was an epidemic of child abuse in the 70s and 80s. Offenders included teachers, religious workers, youth, and care workers. Many victims never even came forward to report it. 80% of adults who experienced abuse as children met criteria for at least one psychological disorder. This horrible behavior in the 70s and 80s has caused adults to carry on with negative patterns of behavior in our world today. Don and Candus grew up in a world where domestic and child abuse was accepted. That was their normal.
How it was to, the family life in the 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever, the wife usually stayed home, took care of the family,
And I can say one thing about, what is it, Justice for All or Justin or whatever you call him? He was right about one thing. I pretty much raised myself.
Aw.
When I was real little and a baby and I had heart problems and stuff,
Yeah.
my parents and all that were there. But when you got into my teenage years, they weren't ever there. So it was just. I've had a very troubling childhood and kind of a traumatic teenage life that. So this is funny as crap. Like one time, when I was a kid because my dad didn't want me around or whatever. So I was in different group homes and foster homes and stuff. Because I acted out when I was a kid because I didn't think my family loved me.
Right.
And so as a child, you act out because you're like, well, you know, if your family don't love you and care about you, then screw it. Why not be a fuck up, you know?
Right.
Excuse my language.
That's okay.
Well, if I think about it long enough, you know, I was kind of casted out. I mean, my dad loved my 2 little sisters, but really didn't care about me.
Why?
So I don't know why. I don't know.
I think you look the most like him. I mean,
That's pretty scary because I don't feel like we had any kind of connection. Like, I've always felt like he wasn't even my real father. So I'm like, yeah, I grew up in foster care in the system and stuff like that, and it's been a crazy life that I've had to live, and people just don't realize what people go through. I mean, I think I grew up I grew up too fast when I was little.
Yeah.
Like, I had to do stuff and like had to protect myself from, well, not trying to be rude, but inhumane people.
Really? Like, what do you mean, like inhumane? Like,
well, I remember one time it was somewhere in Wisconsin. I think it was Eau Claire or something. They put me in this group home, and I was only probably about 12 years old, I think. And I remember sitting up on the top bunk, and the song come on, and I can't remember the name of the song. Oh my gosh, what's the name of that song? If Only God Knows Why, I think it played. But I sat up there, and they did not ask me if I needed anything to eat, anything to drink, if I needed any sheets or anything like that.
wow.
It was a very evil place, and like, I'm like, all these other kids were like way older than me, and because I was so young, they would push me around.
Oh, so how did you get food and stuff?
Well, eventually, I told my caseworker when I was little, eventually they moved me to a real foster home that actually cared about kids.
Oh.
And that's where I stayed until I actually got used to like caring and trying to build my life. Like, I graduated
Wow.
from Elk Mound High School in Wisconsin.
Wow.
But there's a lot of people that says I've never graduated, but I have.
Well, I'm proud of you, Candace.
I always promised that I would try my best to take care of my children better than what my parents did for me.
Yeah.
And I'm not being mean on my mom or nothing like that. I love her to death. She's a sweetheart. But there's certain things I won't say because it's just not right.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna do that to her.
Well, I was pretty much raised in the county jails all my teenage years. I don't know why. You know, when my parents divorced, I had my family was good when my parents were together, but when they divorced, my dad, you know, married my babysitter, and my mother married some dude from Kentucky. And
There once was a family who was connected to Donnie via marriage. And Mary is his stepsister, one of his stepsisters. Is that right?
Yep.
when we were little, I mean, it was good and everything, you know, and I don't know. But like I say, you know, me and my brother Randy, we done a lot of stuff together. We go skating rinks, everything.
What about the stepsisters, though?
As far as they were good when we were younger.
Yeah.
You know, but as we got older, you know, things started changing. I don't know. I just feel like they didn't really want me in the picture.
Let's talk about the dynamic. So your mom is married to Donnie's dad.
Yeah. He's always like kept Donnie under his wing. He's always catered to him, always been there. Every time he's gotten in trouble, Dad hired him to get Donnie out of trouble. Every time Donnie was in trouble, he was right there.
Okay, so he's your stepbrother.
Yes.
Okay, and your sister Jeannie and you are biological DNA sisters.
Yes.
Okay, and that makes Donnie, Jeannie, you, stepbrother.
Mm-hmm.
Both, in my opinion, you know, I know my stepmom tries to love me now.
Yeah.
I feel she's been good to me. She's trying to be a Christian now, but before they didn't want me around.
You had a weird accent for
Yeah,
Tennessee.
yeah. I don't speak very well, of course. I mean, I've been through a lot of trauma when I was younger, and so I've had a lot of problem dealing with that kind of stuff, feeling less than human kind of thing most of my life. You know.
So, looking back at Candace's younger years, we know that Candace married pretty young and she had 2 children. And these children lived in an home. We know this because Candace has spoken about it and said that she was horribly abused by the father of those 2 children.
I
I love all my children, each and every one of them.
Oh, I know you do.
Even the ones that, before Summer and the boys.
Yeah.
And he was a very evil man.
That is so cruel, ain't it?
My first kid's dad would tell me to run, and I was 18 when I met him, so I really didn't understand how love and relationships worked, right?
Yeah.
So I moved out there with him, and he lived on his dad's property. And he would literally tell me to run through the swamp, and he would shoot above my head with a shotgun.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
Was you terrified?
Yeah. I mean, I have a scar on, I don't remember if it's my left or right arm, but I was leaned up against his truck, and his truck was all rusted out and stuff. But he got really mad and pissed off, and he flew out the driveway and it ripped my whole arm open, and I had to go to the hospital and get stitches for it.
Oh my gosh, Candace.
I was very terrified, but I had 2 kids with him, and he would psychologically abuse me. He would always be like, well, if you leave me, I'm taking the kids, and there ain't nothing you can do, and I love my kids, I didn't want to be away from my kids.
Right.
And so, I tried everything, to make him happy. He would, come home from work, and we lived in this little itty-bitty camper, a little itty-bitty camper. And he would come home from work, and if supper wasn't done, and he didn't like the way I peppered it or salted it or whatever it tastes, he would slam it against the wall, and, that's just, he would say, you dumb, saying all kinds of hateful crap.
Aw.
And I don't know where they got that I pulled a gun out on CPS.
Oh, you didn't? Because that's what I heard.
Oh my gosh. No, I did not pull the gun out on CPS. The gun laid up against the wall next to the door, and when CPS walked into the door, the gun laid there. Actually, my first kid's dad actually just come up from in the woods, and he was, I don't know if they were target practicing or hunting for does, him and his brother, but he come in the house, and he was all bloody and nasty and dirty from whatever they were doing in the woods. And he laid it up against the wall right there next to the door. Well, then CPS knocked on the door, and I let him in, and the gun laid there. And they tried to get me for pulling a gun out on CPS, but they couldn't charge me because it was laying up against the wall.
Wow. Why in the world? Is it just because you had a gun there?
Yeah, I think so.
And then here you see 6 files. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I downloaded these files, and if you go into my storage here on my phone, here are the 6 photographs right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of Candus Bly. Back in her younger days. Going off the booking dates that I gave you, here's what the bookings were for. 8/27/2002, arrest for child intentionally harm and possession of drug paraphernalia, I can't even say that word, but Burnett County court case 02CM187. Number 2, 12/28/02, arrest for disorderly conduct and recklessly endangering safety, first degree, Burnett County court case 03CM17. Number 3, 2/21/03, arrested by Grantsburg police, disorderly conduct.
So these are old arrests. However, it paints a picture of who she was back then, because this has a lot to do with her children that she had taken away, her 2 children taken away in Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, she had 2 children taken away.
I'm very confident based off the track record, and the track record in her past is very relevant. Number 2 here.
Let me tell you something about number 2 here. Number 2 arrest here with Candus for disorderly conduct and recklessly endangering safety. What I'm told here in this particular case was CPS was coming to take her children away, and she pulled a shotgun out on them, which Don Wells admitted out of his own mouth, though I don't believe anything Don, says in the past. But again, this needs to be talked about in the past. Bad for Summer Wells at the end of the day.
Well, see, I mean, this is how much I don't know, the foster care system or the folks that she was raised with or whatever. I don't know them, but somebody had told her that I beat the crap out of her and her brother with a baseball bat. I don't even own a baseball bat, never have, never will.
I could never see you doing that, ever.
And I was like, where did you hear this from? And she's like, that's what my foster family told me. I'm like, okay, well, that's really weird.
Right. I feel like your daughter kind of went through a hard time too, your oldest one.
Yeah,
so
she did.
I think she needs you more than you know, and I pray that one day you all can restore your relationship. I wish you would reach back out to your oldest daughter again. She looks just like you.
She don't want to talk to me.
Well,
people have gotten to her. YouTube people have gotten to her, and it's made her believe that I'm this evil person. Like in the beginning, I was talking to her, and everything was cool. We were sending long drawn out paragraphs, sentences to each other, and we were finally getting a connection back together. She was actually going to come out and visit with me. And then when Summer came up missing, YouTube people got a hold of her and whispered in her ear and destroyed what we had going.
Aww. Well, just keep praying. Maybe God will restore that again.
And it's okay, and I can't be mad at her because she's got to take care of her kids, and she don't want her kids going through the dramatic torture and drama, and I don't blame her.
No, I don't blame her.
And I'm not mad at her, and I'll still love her from afar, like I always have.
Yeah.
And then my third child that I had in Arkansas with another man that I met before I met Donnie. I had her and everything, and I was living with a friend of mine here in Arkansas. Well, her dad was hooked on stuff that nobody can imagine, and he overdosed from I think it was morphine patches or something like that. He overdosed. He was a good guy. And social services come in and asked, because I was still young, I was still 20 years old, and we sat down and I talked to them, and I thought for the best thing for her was for her to be adopted out that way. She didn't have to be, I guess, I don't know, didn't have to be going down the road I was going, because at that time, yeah, I wasn't in my right mind. Yeah, I was doing stuff. I was homeless.
Don also fathered 2 other children before he met Candus. He had a son and a daughter, and it doesn't sound like they had the easiest life either.
I had the opportunity to speak to Donald Wells' niece, who appears to be a wonderful and compassionate lady. She gave me some insight into Donald's past, and I would like to share that with you today. She said that he beat his older children and never took care of them. The children would go days without food and never got clean clothes or baths. I totally understand that you cannot judge people on their past.
Yeah, and that past has been pretty colorful, hasn't it?
Yeah. A lot of people are saying it was both his kids, but it was just little Donnie when he was just a couple years old. His ex-wife had came to my mom's and with the kids, and it was late at night. It was like 11, 12 o'clock at night. And, we were all getting ready to go to bed, and she came in and she was crying, and she said that she had just caught Donnie down on, it's famous 25th Street down here in Ogden, And she said he was out there trying to sell little Donnie because he needed drugs. They were broke.
I've been to places in California where I've been to some places where there were little kids, where people were trying to sell these little kids.
Oh, wow.
I've seen a lot of shit that just blew my mind.
So was he gonna trade little Donnie for drugs, or was he was literally just selling him on a corner? I guess that's
I'm not quite sure. but he was doing that because he was trying to get drugs. You know, I think he was just stopping people saying, hey, you want to buy my kid? You know, $20, $50, whatever, you know. He didn't care because he was on drugs, you know, he didn't care, you know.
There was a couple of things that he's really, really afraid of.
Well, for one thing, he's scared of prison. You know, talking, saying, I'm not scared to go back to prison. That's totally wrong. He is deathly afraid of prison. Yes, he does not want to go back to prison.
A little bit about me. I was pretty much raised up in the county jails and prisons and stuff like that. That's where I found God.
And he had just gotten out of court. And the judge told him, if I see you in my courtroom one more time, I will put you on a chain gang. And I guess that frightened him so bad that I think it scared him straight, at least for a while.
I feel like he raised me, you know. It's hard to believe you find love in a place like that, but I did, and people that had respect, and I found brotherhood, and you know, people that very few, but there's a few that you know want to read scriptures and do the same kind of thing, and trying to get away from this kind of life and go to a godly kind of life. But there are a few.
So at 5 years old, and I want to give also a heads up to everybody, we've got a little essay discussion here, not a lot, but when Jeannie was 5, you were 13.
See, me and Donnie are the same age.
Oh, so Donnie was...
We're only about a month apart, yeah.
Okay, so you were both kind of in that 13 range. Okay. And Jeannie comes up and reveals what?
That Donnie had been
essaying her, and it started at the age of 5, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And so your family was kind of thrown another curveball, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, when you're a kid, you're learning, you're exploring. That's a whole different world. There's a whole different time.
Right.
So people change.
Right.
You remember 1 Corinthians is when I was a child, I thought as a child and I understood things as a child. Now that I'm a man, I understand.
Right.
You know the whole.
Absolutely.
So I'm with you on that.
Right.
But
he's always like kept Donnie under his wing. He's always catered to him, always been there. Every time he's gotten in trouble. I don't know if you've heard, there was a famous lawyer here in Utah, Larry A. Carmichael. I don't know if you ever heard about him, but he was a top high lawyer. And my mom and dad hired him to get Donnie out of trouble. Every time Donnie was in trouble, he was right there.
My parole officers, they never liked me. I had a job at Hill Air Force Base at one time, making really good money, had security clearance out there and everything, and they showed up out there 2 carloads deep. When I finally got out of that mess, I left the state as fast as I could. I think I went to Arkansas. That's where I met my wife.
Came up, my mom said, oh, we found him a wife, they got married. I was like, oh, good, he found him someone that, will keep him in line, keep him off the drugs. But little did I know, how that end was, but I was happy for him because he was always in trouble and always in and out of prison, and so...
But then, after I met Donnie, and I can't really talk about the boys, so I can't say much.
Yeah.
But we had our first one. Well, actually, our first one was a kitty cat.
Yeah.
And we saved it from a closet. And then we moved out to help his mom because she was not doing too good. She was sick.
Then my mom got sick, so we come out here. And,
your mom moved here?
Yeah, she was sick, had MRSA.
I took care of her. She was had to be changed and all that, diapers, and took in the bath and cleaned up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I did that for a long time for his mom.
And so we come out here to try to help her, and she, died.
And then I remember when she was passing, she said, one's leaving this world and one's entering this world. And that's when I had little man, Wyatt.
So, but she left us the property, and then, but we've had, 4 kids since then.
Yeah. How old's your oldest?
12.
And then we had our firstborn, and then we had Waylon. And then Summer, and it was like, because we had all 3 boys.
And Summer's your youngest?
Yes.
And it was like, are we ever going to have a girl? And then when we had a girl, it was like, oh my God, we were like in shock and we were so amazed and so in love.
She only wanted me for a long time, and if I come home from work or something, she would not want her mother, she wanted me. She just wanted me for, first 18 months or so, and I never expected anything like that.
She's my angel, and I love her so much.
And baby Waylon looks like you too, I think.
Josie and Wyatt look a lot alike, and Waylon and Summer look a lot alike.
They did. They did. You had some beautiful children, for sure, Candus. No doubt about that.
So, that's part of my life story.
First time I met him, he told me he had to stay at work until almost 8, 9 o'clock at night because DSS was coming to his house. He couldn't be there. I said, what?
What?
Come on, Don, bro.
I missed that.
Yeah. That's what you told me, Don. I mean,
okay, I might have said that. Yeah, I might not want to talk to him or whatever. I don't know. Somebody called DCS on me saying that I was giving my kids loaded guns to play with.
I thought that was what we would.
No, that was our first case, and that was dropped. That case was dropped June 14th, the day before Summer come up missing. They come up to my house. They brought our CPS.
Who came up to your house?
The welfare come to my house with a supervisor. She brought her supervisor with her. My kids were running around with their little motorcycle. It was a beautiful day. Everything seemed really nice. And the very next day is when Summer come up missing.
A missing child.
Breaking news: an Amber Alert now issued by the TBI for a missing 5-year-old girl.
You didn't do anything to hurt your daughter?
No, sir.
Do you know what happened to Summer?
No.
Do you know who took Summer?
No.
There's nothing more to remember. Online bullies began accusing them of having something to do with her disappearance.
She clung to me when she was born. She only wanted me. And that just blew my mind away because I've never had anybody just in my life that just wanted me and loved me only.
And when Summer went missing, the day she went missing and the day you guys heard about it, something happened. Tell everybody what took place.
She just came out and she's like, well, I think we need to get a hold of TBI. And I was like, yeah, I think so. That might be a really good thing for them to at least know. It might not make any difference, but they need to know what went on because Jeannie was 5 years old when it started.
Donald's niece went on to say that she thinks Don knows what happened to Summer. She said that she doesn't know whether he did something to Summer, but she thinks he knows what happened.
And, she's like, well, gosh, his daughter's 5 years old. And I was like, right? And so
she says that she has no doubt in her mind that Don used Summer.
She's like, I don't know. I just have this bad feeling, And she said, I really do think that TBI needs to know about his past.
She went on to tell me that she personally knows women who were assaulted by Donald when they were children.
They're in custody.
Okay. Yeah, hopefully they're okay. And you get to see them.
They're fine.
Do you know why the boys were taken away? I can't say that I know the whole reason, but I do know part of the reasons. So, they had crack in their system and marijuana, which is why so many lie detector tests. So that's one. The other reason is now both of them have blamed each other. I've been told it's because Donnie's abusive, and I've been told it's because Candus is abusive. There's definitely one of the reasons is in the home, whether it be one or the other or both. In my opinion, it's both.
Listen. Did Donnie make I was money? This one.
No.
We were up at her house. She was drinking. She was out of it. All the kids were outside. Waylon and Wyatt were by the dirt bikes, and I said, don't let them play with the dirt bikes because they're gonna get hurt. And next thing you know, little Waylon came from inside. He's screaming bloody murder. He had cut the bottom of his foot.
Oh, Jesus.
Really nasty. I mean, it needed stitches. Yeah. And I said, Candace couldn't even hold her own son, wash his foot off or nothing. I picked him up, put him in the sink, washed his foot off so I could see where the cut was, how bad it was. I said, he needs to go to the hospital, he needs stitches. I looked at her mother, I said, let's go, we gotta go take him to the emergency room. Well, she was giving me all of his information, but then when it came time for insurance, she goes, you can't bring him because we don't have no insurance.
Same thing when he burnt his hand down on the oven down in the basement. It was bad. It was like a third, fourth degree burn. It was nasty.
She said, I'm going to take him to the emergency room. No, they left for Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So they just went to Wisconsin without going to the emergency room?
Yep.
Wow.
These kids were just abused all.
They were.
I bet you if they knew all that stuff, they never did. They don't deserve these kids.
They never
These
did.
kids deserve a loving.
And did you guys tell all this to the TBI and everything? So they're well aware of all of this information.
Do you have your kids back? I know you went through some trouble with that.
Well, it got real dangerous at our house because of, and I'm not using that for an excuse, but it did. It got real dangerous because of everything that was happening on YouTube.
Now it's a continuous pattern because now she's had
1, Summer's missing, and 2, 3 of her children have been taken away again. So Candus Wells, Candace Bly at the time, before she hooked up with Don Wells in Arkansas, she has had a pattern, a continuous pattern of having her own children taken away.
So they called the cops, and so one thing led to the other when the cops got there, and they told them I had a gun in the glove box, which I did. Yeah. But yeah, we realized alcohol and all that stuff's not good. And
where were the kids during all this?
Probably downstairs.
You think when you say probably, you know they were, or you just weren't cognizant of it?
I don't know where they were exactly. Yeah, I don't. It was later in the evening, so I'm assuming they're downstairs watching a movie or something.
Okay. How'd that resolve? How'd that get fixed?
Oh, they took me to jail. My mother-in-law told them I put real bullets in the gun, so I was facing 10 years, mandatory minimum. And they've already clarified that I've never done any of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I've never done any of this stuff, so they've already said that on YouTube. Right, made it clear, finally.
Yeah.
You know, okay. But when I did know, Trish, she was probably, I don't know how old she was at that time. She was just,
Chris said that he wanted his followers to come and ask us to ask you about your 17-year-old mistress.
No, she never told me her age, ever. I don't know how old she was, but that looks can be deceiving in that area. Yeah, and I don't know how old she was. She looks a lot older than that. I have no idea how old she is. She just, I don't know, I guess she was just lonely. There's been quite a few, actually. Some older, some younger. I've learned a lot over the years, especially not to even be around a 17-year-old. That's just crazy. I might have fell for that stuff when I was younger, but never again. This thing that started with my niece, Trish, whom I barely know, I think she's the one who started all this stuff, all these rape allegations. And I would just like to say to everybody, I've never raped anybody in my entire life. I never have. And, I might have been out of line with my stepsister some, but she is not innocent by any means. Okay? Yeah, I was wrong. I didn't know no better. I was a teenager. I made mistakes. I learned from that. But I have never raped anybody ever in my life. And for them to say what Tricia said, that I raped her and Amanda and everybody and my own kids and all that stuff, no wonder Chris Madonna and some of these others might be looking at me as hard as they are. No wonder people in Utah always give me such a hard time all these years. I'm just now finding this stuff out. They've been spreading these lies for years, and they're untrue and they're lies. And I'm calling them out on it because it's not true.
And if anyone's ever not been in a relationship, you will not understand. You feel trapped and you don't know how to get out. I know.
Go ahead, Daisy.
I was in one at the same age, and I didn't have children. I couldn't imagine how hard it would have been if I had children.
We had a very beautiful life together, all of us together, until Summer got gone, and boys got took, and everything fell apart after that.
But you were very happy before then, right?
We were all very happy.
I wish we could turn back time.
Me too. I always, at night, like right now, usually, I'll be like, what if I've done this? What if I've done that? What if, I do this what if thing in my head all the time.
I know.
I thank God now that I have Donnie, because Donnie's actually a way better man than the guy that I was with.
Oh, I can imagine. I am so sorry, Candace. Yeah.
Wisconsin CPS, they're jokes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
CPS is different in every state you go to.
That's true. That is true.
Is there anything else you want to clear up during this before we?
At all.
Yeah, anything at all
I can think of.
Yeah. So as we go through this, we can say, do you know where Summer is? Do you know where Summer is?
I don't know. I wish I did.
Do you have any earthly idea what happened to her?
No. I wish I did.
Do you think Candace had anything to do with it?
No.
And what about this? And you think what might have happened to her was what?
She was kidnapped.
Yeah.